Yo, 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 what is up, guys? It's Cone back here again today with another video. The Los Angeles Lakers, the defending champions, just got eliminated in round 1. This is the first time ever that LeBron James has fallen out of the playoffs in the first round. It's a monumental occasion, not just for him, but for a Lakers team that really a lot of people, including myself, expected to repeat as NBA champions coming into the season. Even coming into the playoffs, I thought that LeBron and AD had worked past their injuries. I thought this team was really going to click. They were going to beat the Suns in the first round, and I picked the Lakers to repeat. I really thought LeBron James, Anthony Davis, some solid role players around them. It was just too much talent for other teams to overcome, and I picked them winning in the finals over the 76ers in 7 games. And now they're out in the first round. So, shows how much I guess I know, but really what I think a lot of this came down to is the injuries of the Los Angeles Lakers and a lot of the role players just failing to step up when they were needed. Dennis Schroeder, a guy who really performed for the Thunder last season, I thought he was going to be incredible for them in these playoffs, and he just did not really show up. Game 5 and 6, he kind of showed up a little bit, but throughout the entirety of the series, he was not nearly as good as they needed him to be. He was the guy they looked to be their third option, paying him $15.5 million this season. They thought he was going to be the guy, and he said he wants to come back, but if he's looking for like a $20 million payday and the way that he played this season, who knows if he's going to get that from them. You had a guy like Kyle Kuzma, who had a great regular season. His numbers were down, but if you watched Kyle Kuzma actually play, then you could tell that he was much better this season than he had been previously, and then in the playoffs, he just disappeared. Montrezl Harrell, one of their biggest acquisitions, getting the reigning sixth man of the year to come into this team this offseason. A lot of people, including myself, thought he was going to be a productive bench player. And then he was unplayable pretty much in the playoffs. He couldn't rebound, he couldn't guard anyone, and his scoring was limited, so he really had no benefit being on the court. Alex Caruso, a really impactful player for this Lakers team. He's much more than a meme. He's a solid defensive player, he's a solid playmaker, he's a solid shooter, he can do pretty much a little bit of everything. He's a guy the Lakers really want to retain, but with free agency coming up for Alex Caruso, I wouldn't be surprised if a team out there offers him a little bit of money. I'm sure he'd love to come back to the Lakers, but this is going to mean that they're probably going to have to pay him more than they would like to retain him. You have a guy like Markieff Morris who has shown some production at times. They have to make a decision about do they want to keep Andre Drummond. There were reports that the Lakers wanted to keep him long term. Horton-Tucker, a guy who really shined throughout the course of this season in some big moments. In this Game 6 where the Lakers lost, at the end of the game, he was putting up buckets. He was doing whatever he could to get them back in this game. And so they've got a lot of question marks all over the roster. Really, the only two stable guys that I know are going to be on this team next season are LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And both of those guys suffered big injuries this season. LeBron James had that big ankle injury when Solomon Hill rolled over on it that ultimately kept him out for a lot of the season, effectively ended his MVP race campaign, and I feel like it was still hindering him. It looked like he wasn't as explosive as he has been over the course of his entire career, and even just this season after that ankle injury. It looked like it was still hurting him in the playoffs. It's not an excuse or anything like that, but it did look like it was limiting him. Anthony Davis, we saw what happened. He strained his calf, and then in that Game 6, he tried to play for the first 5 minutes, and he just couldn't. So, what's next for the Lakers? With all these question marks on the roster, the injury proneness of Anthony Davis at times, given he was able to stay healthy throughout last year's playoffs, so he's proven he can do that, but also with the, dare I say, decline of LeBron James. I'm a big LeBron fan. I'm wearing a LeBron James shirt right now to record this video. But for the first time in a long time, maybe ever, since I've been watching the NBA, I'm not entirely sure if LeBron's the best player in the NBA anymore. And that feels crazy to say. Even when Steph Curry was winning unanimous MVPs and stuff like that, I was still adamant that LeBron James has been, since I started watching basketball in the early 2010s, the best player in the NBA. And now I don't know. At age 36, there were some visible signs of decline. And like I said, I don't know if that's just because of the ankle injury. I don't want to write him off entirely or say like firmly that he just is losing it a little bit, that he's getting, I don't want to say washed, that he's declining a little bit because it's LeBron James. And if anyone has proven that Father Time is not able to affect him that much, it's LeBron James. We saw him last year winning a finals MVP at the age of 35. So, are the Lakers screwed? I think the answer is no. Not at all. When you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, two at times top 5 players, you could talk about where Anthony Davis is at, but I still think LeBron James is a top 5 player, even if he isn't number 1 at this point in his career. his impact on the game, his playmaking, his ability to score, his leadership, these are things that I think make him a top 5 player. But it's really just the supporting cast. What do they do? Because what they proved this season is that this supporting cast was not good enough. I thought it was good enough. Most of the NBA thought it was good enough. Pretty much everyone picked the Lakers before the season to win the championship. Given, you got to remember, this is before the Nets traded for James Harden. I know some people are going to probably mention that in the comment section below. Like that, they were like, oh, I always thought the Nets were going to win it. I'm talking before the season. So, what do you do if you're the Lakers? Obviously, LeBron and AD stay. I've seen some people say that the Lakers are completely screwed, that they think the Lakers might blow it up. And to that, I think you're crazy. When you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you're not screwed at all. This team is going to be a championship contender again next season. I'd be pretty shocked if they weren't, because when you have those two top guys, as well as the fact that they're in Los Angeles, it's the Lakers. People want to come play for this roster. People want to play alongside LeBron James. People want to come play with Anthony Davis. People want to compete for a championship. Even some guys on this roster, like Dennis Schroeder, Alex Caruso especially, have said that they want to be back. Two of their bigger free agents, they want to be back on this team. It's really just a question of, is that good enough? Dennis Schroeder, like I said, Thunder legend, played great for us last season, but this season he really did not have the production they needed him to have. And so, are they willing to pay him the $20 million that he's probably going to ask for, about $5 million more than his current contract? Or do they look to maybe do a sign and trade with him to someone else and try and pick up another star? Who knows? I think the Lakers are going to go for another star, though, in this offseason. Whether or not they get it is to be decided, but I think that what they saw this season is that if LeBron starts to decline and AD isn't able to stay healthy, they need someone else to help keep this roster afloat, because you can't continue to play LeBron James 40 minutes a game. He's 36. At some point, he's going to start declining a little bit, and at some point, his body's just going to start to give out. You can't keep playing him these extensive minutes. And when Anthony Davis wasn't on the court in this series, if LeBron James wasn't out there, the Lakers were getting cooked. They need a third guy that can come in when one of those guys is resting, or if one of them gets hurt, or they just need a day off. They need that third guy to come in and help them out. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like Dennis Schroeder's that guy. He can still be a great piece for this team. He can still be their point guard, but I think they need another star. And so, if we look at the market for those guys, there are a couple names that come to mind. I don't think they're going to get Kawhi. I'd be pretty shocked if they did. If the Clippers lose first round tonight, as you're seeing this video, or when I'm dropping this video and recording it, the Mavericks and Clippers playing Game 6 of their series tonight. So say Kawhi loses in the first round, he wants to stay in LA. Maybe he considers trying to force his way to the Lakers. I'd be surprised if that happened, but you know, I've seen crazier things in the NBA. So who knows, maybe that happens. I'm sure NBA fans would hate that, but that's, I guess, a possibility. I would say it's a very, very small one, but maybe. I think a much more realistic option is like a Kyle Lowry, a DeMar DeRozan, maybe a Mike Conley if one of those guys want to come win a championship. I think those are realistic options. At this point in his career, I don't think Mike Conley, or not Mike Conley, I don't think Kyle Lowry or even DeMar DeRozan really want to play for rebuilding teams. I know Lowry loves it there in Toronto. He's the greatest Raptor of all time, but ultimately if he wants to win a championship sooner than later, before the end of his career, he might have to leave that situation, because right now they're retooling. I think the Raptors are going to be able to turn it around pretty quickly, especially if they get lucky in this year's lottery, but I don't think it's going to be enough right now. I think he would more likely go to a team like the Lakers, take a little bit of a pay cut, and try and get another ring before he retires. Then we look at a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who doesn't have a ring. He, though, proved this past season that he can still play up to an all-star level, so I wouldn't be surprised if DeRozan kind of chased a bag at this point in his career. He's not that old. He's still got time to come in and get some money, and then in the twilight of his career, maybe try and go out and get that ring. But for right now, I would be kind of surprised if he didn't chase money. However, we have also seen that star players are willing to take, or more notable players are more willing to take pay cuts to come to the Lakers. We saw that with Montrezl Harrell this season. I know he's not like an all-star or anything like that, but last season he was really good in the regular season. And so he probably could have made more than $9.2 million, and instead he decided to come to the Lakers. He decided, hey, I think this is a chance to win a championship, so this is what I'm going to do. So that's definitely an option. Getting those veteran guys, those veteran free agents. We could talk about some of them here, but maybe they bring back like a Danny Green. I believe he's a free agent this offseason. Maybe they go out and chase like a Danny Green or something like that. The Suns are too much on my mind right now. There are some options. There are some veteran guys. Maybe they try and go out and get maybe like a Lauri Markkanen or something like that, a restricted guy that their team is probably willing to give up on. Lauri Markkanen was in a lot of trade talks, and I think he's a guy that could fit well in this team if Anthony Davis is willing to commit to playing the center more. A starting lineup of a LeBron James, a Lauri Markkanen, and Anthony Davis, something like that, with maybe like a Dennis Schroeder staying in the backcourt with a Contavious Caldwell-Pope, is a solid starting five. He's not quite the star guy that they would want, but I do think he complements the piece as well. So, if they're looking for something like that, that's certainly an option. If the Lakers are looking for more of a backcourt option in terms of veterans that might be willing to take a pay cut to come to the Los Angeles Lakers, maybe we could look at a guy like Derrick Rose. Rose just played a really important role for the Knicks over the course of the second half of the season, as well as in the playoffs. He was their best scorer in the playoffs. And for a team that sometimes struggles to put the ball in the basket, like the Knicks did this past season, Derrick Rose is probably a great option for the Lakers. He's been rumored to go there for a while. There were rumors at some point in LeBron James' career that he was going to team up with Derrick Rose in Chicago even. Anthony Davis, a guy from Chicago, there's some connections there, I guess. Derrick Rose is just a guy I could really see playing in a Lakers uniform next season. I think he wants to win. I think he wants to try and get that ring. I think he wants to prove to people that he belongs in the Hall of Fame. Winning that MVP is a little bit of a case, but if he wants to make it into the Hall of Fame, I think he's got to get more than that. And I think ultimately winning a ring could be something that propels him forward, especially if at this point in his career, like he's able to, he plays an important role to that team. So I think a guy like Derrick Rose would really fit on this Lakers team. I think he could be either a great six-man for them or their starting point guard if they don't want to pay Dennis Schroeder that much money. So those are a couple options for them. There are others out there, other veteran guys, but ultimately I think the way that this team gets back to contention is trying to get a third star and then signing a couple guys that will be willing to take pay cuts to come to the Lakers in order to return to championship contention. They've got to do a kind of a mixture of both. I don't think they're screwed. I've seen way too many people on my timeline saying that the Lakers are screwed, that this is the end of LeBron, this is the end of the Lakers. I saw someone say that the Lakers are going to blow it up, which I think is insane. They don't have draft picks. They can't blow it up. And so people are like harping way too much on this. I'm not making excuses for the Lakers, but they did have a really short offseason and they dealt with a lot of injuries. It was not their year. It wasn't. And the Suns deserve all the credit for beating them because they came in as the underdogs despite being the 2 seed and they said, we're not the underdogs, we're going to beat you guys. And that's exactly what they did. So the Lakers, if they want to keep up with the rest of the Western Conference, which continues to get better, the Jazz are good, the Suns are good, the Clippers, if Kawhi doesn't leave, are still going to be really good. Luka is coming very fast. The Nuggets are improving a lot. Every team in the West is getting better, and the Lakers need to continue to keep pace, or they are going to fall out of contention, and they are going to be screwed. But with Rob Pelinka knowing that he has LeBron and Anthony Davis, I expect him to do whatever he can to bring talent into this team, and I think the Lakers are right back in the mix for the championship next season. So those are my thoughts on the Lakers at the end of this season. Let me know what you guys think. Are the Lakers screwed in your opinion? Who are some free agents they should go out and get? Like, who do you think they could get for cheap? Would a guy like Derrick Rose, maybe a restricted free agent that they could kind of underpay, like a Lauri Markkanen, would he be willing to come into this team? Let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys watching this video. I will see you guys later.